All right, Shalom, Shalom. This is the brother Mayum coming at you from GMS Tampa Bay. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachaha Kwadash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, a great millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Hakim around the four corners of the earth. We're diligently pushing out this truth and sincerity. And I just want to do a quick video, just going off of the last video I had did, and a couple brothers had sent out a couple articles, and through the spirit that that kind of added on to the lesson that I had did, and just going along the lines with this MOTB updates, and how Esau Edom is setting the world up for what's getting ready to come as far as this digital frontier. All right, that's getting ready to be crossed. Okay, because this is what Esau Edom is want. This is what he wants. He wants the masses of the people to be on board with what this new system is going to entail, which is going to be all a digital front. Okay, it's all going to be a digital access, and to these to have a what's it called, an inclusive experience for life, because as we've been seeing, and as brothers have been mentioning, everything is going towards you being able to have access through this digital means. And they show you this through these apps that they've been pushing out, where you have access to all these shows, all these different movies, but you have to be a subscriber. Okay, you have to be subscribed, which, let's go ahead and get that word, subscribe. All right, let's get this word subscribe and see what it means. All right, because as we've been seeing, everything is becoming a subscription. Okay, so a subscribe. All right, this is the online etymology, is a verb, because that's what you're doing. You're ultimately subscribing, okay, to a service. All right, and it says early 15th century, subscribing, to sign at the bottom of a document, a sense now rare. Mid 15th century, give one's consent, bind oneself. And this is ultimately what you're doing. This is all a part, as I briefly mentioned in my last video, the fourth industrial revolution is the merging of man with machine. This is the binding oneself onto. This is what you're binding yourself to. It's to this program. And what do you do when you see these subscriptions? When you're subscribing to an app, they give you this one page that you have to go through where it says the consent forms. Okay, the disclosure and consent forms, and you have to check that you acknowledge it. And it's basically, that's your signature, acknowledging and consenting to all their bullshit that they have in these contracts. Okay, and a lot of times those consents and those agreements that you're signing off on is basically for them to be able to sell your information to other companies, so that they can market over to you. They can market to you. But what is this? I'll read it again. It says to give one's consent, bind oneself. And this is ultimately what you're doing when you're subscribing over to this new way of living. All right, to this new system that's being pushed out in the world. Okay, you're consenting to this. And this is what you see happening, all over the earth, is people are consenting to this beast. Okay, people are consenting to the image of the beast, and the beast being the NATO EU nations, which in my previous video I showed that of how this is going on right now over there in the EU. Where they're pushing out, they're pushing forward for this mandatory, NATO, or not NATO, this mandatory European digital wallet, which is not, they try to portray like you're going to have a choice of whether you want to be involved in it, but businesses is going to be mandatory for businesses. So again, this is all being geared for you to be a subscriber. And as they've been pushing out, as I said, with these apps, They've been pushing out this narrative of you subscribing to things, you consenting to these different platforms, okay, binding yourself to these platforms so that you can be a partaker of their services. And this is what this system is this new financial system that's being pushed out here, and this new digital system is you being a subscriber, you consenting to what services they're going to be giving, which is going to be everything. Everything is going to be tied to this digital service, all right, these digital systems, all right, which is why the scriptures talk about the buying and the selling. All right, but just a little bit more on this word here, subscribe. It says from Latin subscribere, right underneath, sign one's name, register, also figuratively assent, agree to, approve. And see, this is why in Revelations chapter 14 it says all that worship the beast and the image and receive his mark. Okay, ultimately you approve of what their agenda is, which is that image of the beast, the new world order, and you consent yourself over to it. You bind yourself over to it. Okay? So you just recently had this come out with an Apple, all right, which Apple, is an American company. So again, this showing you that this is not just happening in other parts of the world, but this is also happening here in America. Okay, so this is Apple puts passports on iPhone, Apple Watch for TSA lines. So now it says Apple's new passport-based digital ID is rolling out on iPhone and Apple Watch, giving travelers a new way to clear TSA security lines with just their device. You see? And soon it's not going to be on your device anymore. It's going to be on an RFID microchip, because now you can't forget your phone. Now you can't leave your phone somewhere. You can't lose your phone. Or you can't lose the RFID microchip. You can't leave the RFID microchip at home because it's going to be all inside of you. Okay? It's going to be put inside of you. And it says it's the biggest step yet in the tech giant's push to make the Apple Wallet app a digital replacement for everything in your pocket, from credit cards to car keys to IDs. Again, when you break down this word mark in Revelations chapter 13, the word there is charagma, which means a thing inserted. And what's going to be inserted inside of you is going to be this RFID microchip, radio frequency identification device, which is going to carry, when you go into the root word of charagma, is charax, which means palisade, a piercing instrument, which is how the charagma is going to get inside of you. But when you go into the root word of charax, is grapho, which means a collection of information. Okay, a collection of words, which is what? The information, your name, your birthday, your financial bank account information. Okay, your digital ID, your primary address, all that is going to be on these digital wallets. Okay, so this is what Esau Edom is pushing out there, man. He's bringing these things to pass. In the end, they shall speak and not lie. I brought that out in my last video as well, man. In Habakkuk chapter 2. See, these things are taking place in real time. As the elder Yashawamba said in one of his videos, these things are happening in our lifetime. It's not going to be another 50, 40 years, or 100 years, or we're not going to be here another 1,000 years, as you have had some clowns say, man. This is something that's going to happen in our lifetime, and these current years that we're going to be living in, man. And Lord's will, as the scripture says, it'd be sooner rather than later, because as Yahushua said, for the elect say he shall come quickly, because if not, who's he going to be here? Who's he going to come back to save them? And we see how these things are going, man. If we're here too much longer, man, we're gonna all die, man. Not only are especially those that believe in Yahweh Shem Yahshai, Lord's will, the Lord keeps that spirit on us to the end, and with us rejecting this system that the devil is bringing upon the earth, ultimately we're going to be killed. As it talks about in Revelations chapter 13, verse 15, man. And he causes all that would not worship the beast to be killed, man. There's going to be a persecution against those that want to not be a part of the system, because we're going to be labeled dissensioners, okay, divergents. And as for those of you that have seen that movie Divergent, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that haven't, hey, that's a good movie to watch, Divergent. Okay, because it showed you what happens and to those that are opposed to the current system. It showed you how they're labeled, how people look at you when you go contrary to the narrative that the current power is pushing. Okay, and this is ultimately what the scriptures talking about in Revelations chapter 12. Let's get this real quick. Revelations chapter 12 and verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And see, so as Esau Edom is pushing these different programs and restructuring society to benefit his agenda, he's doing things in such a way that it's all being done so quick that people are either going to fall in line because it's too much and too fast, and people don't really have the time anymore to really research things, so they're just going to bow down to this thing without digging deeper, or people are going to believe what the narrative that's being pushed out here, as far as this is meant to enslave you, because you do have an opposition, so to say, and it's all controlled opposition from this devil, but he's creating this opposition so that he can weed out the undesirables, those that don't want to fall in line with what he's with what he wants to be brought out on the earth. And he showed you this during the C-19, all right, back in 2019 and 2020 and 2021, where those that didn't want to get down with the get down, they were frowned upon. You were kicked out of certain places. You weren't allowed access to certain parts, and had access to certain businesses. Okay, and this is exactly what's going to happen with this new with this digital frontier that he's getting ready to bring society to cross over. Where if you don't want to cross over, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be demonized and ultimately persecuted. And that includes those of us that believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, because we trust in him. We don't trust in this world. We've seen what trust in this world gets you. Okay? It gets you nowhere. It gets you further away from the Heavenly Father. Further away from the grace and mercy of the Heavenly Father. See, this world doesn't have no mercy to show you. Okay, Jeremiah chapter 13 verse 23 talks about that can a leopard change his spot? Can an Ethiopian change the color of his skin? Therefore, can he that is accustomed to doing evil do good? And the answer is no. And Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is accustomed to doing evil. But here it is, you believe now, all of a sudden, now he's become a good person. That they're not like how they used to be. Going around the world conquering people and robbing and raping and pillaging nations. Now they're just doing it discreetly. Now they're doing it through your finances. Now they're doing it through these contracts that they have you sign, that they have you subscribe over to. And this is exactly what he's doing with this new system that he's bringing about upon the earth, which is the scriptures refer to as the image of the beast. Okay? This is the new world order, this digital world that Esau Edom is bringing into the earth, man. And this is why all over the earth you have these nations that are bringing out these digital programs. Apple, you have these different companies that are bringing about these different, these different services that they're now offering their customers, because they're programming you to accept these things, so that when they come out and they bring these things out, you're already desensitized to them, so that you just go along to get along. Okay? And ultimately, if you do, you will be put to death. All right? There was another article that a brother sent out. This is off businesswire.com, and it's entitled Telcoin Makes U.S. Banking History with Approval to Launch the First Regulated Digital Asset Bank. Okay? It says Telecom today announced its first charter approval from the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance to launch Telcoin Digital Asset Bank, the first digital asset depository institution in the United States. The charter positions Telcoin to become the first true blockchain bank directly connecting U.S. bank accounts to regulated digital cash stable coins. Its flagship product, the electronic USD, will be the first bank issued on-chain U.S. dollar stablecoin, offering consumers and businesses a secure, compliant way to use digital cash for payments, remittances, and savings. Notably, it is also the first bank charter to explicitly authorize connecting U.S. consumer to decentralized finances. Okay? So this is what's happening, man. And it's here in America already. This isn't something that we're waiting for, that's 10 years down the road. This is something that's being implemented as we speak, man. Banks that are making everything digital, tying everything to a digital currency, backed by the so-called U.S. dollar, which is all a part of that Genius Act that Donald Trump passed not too long ago, earlier this year. Okay? Look it up if you're not familiar with it, the Genius Act. And what that entails, because it's important in the times that we're living in, man. Again, the devil is coming down upon you, having great wrath. So you need to understand what this devil is doing for you to understand what type of wrath this man is bringing. Because Esau is a coward, so he's bringing about to you a passive-aggressive form of wrath. Okay? That's what this devil is bringing. That's how he's doing things. A passive aggressively. Okay? And it's going to be only a matter of time before he becomes fully aggressive upon you, man. Where he brings out he shows you those iron teeth. He shows you his true nature, as the devil the Bible speaks of. Okay? This is that fourth beast that we're living under to this day. That Roman system that had those iron teeth, that was those iron feet. Okay? This is that system that we're living under, man. And this whole shift over to everything becoming a digital asset is all a ploy to control you, to further enslave you in a digital way. Because everything has become digital now, so at a push of a button, he can turn you off. He can disconnect you from society. And he doesn't even have to come looking for you. He can just do it from the convenience of his own office. And not only that, but he can do this autonomously, where he has a system put in place, which is something over here in America known as ESG, environmental social governance, to where these programs and these systems are running autonomously with these rules embedded into his system, to where if you fail compliance, if you don't pass compliance, you are cut off. And these systems are going to automatically do so, where they don't have to have people behind a computer monitoring you to make sure that you're under compliance. They're just going to cut you off. They're just going to turn off your accounts, your access to these certain services that you've been subscribed over to. You're not going to be able to travel because now everything has been converted over to a digital ID. So now you don't want to be in compliance. Well, now you don't get to travel. Now you don't have a digital ID. Now you don't have access to your digital stable coins. You don't have access to a lot of things that are converted over to this digital realm. You lose access to your title of your home, because those are it said digital assets. Another thing that's being converted over to this digital world is your what do they call it? The the deeds to your homes, man. It's being tokenized, meaning it's becoming digital. Just like the title to your car has become digital. Well, now your home's titles are becoming digital. Okay? It's being tokenized and stored in systems until one day you need it. Oh, well, I need that title so I can transfer it over to this guy. And these systems are already in place to allow for these transfers. Okay? Not only in cash, but in deeds, in assets. You're able to transfer assets over to other people digitally, which makes things way more convenient so that you don't have to run over to the bank, okay, and get this title printed out, or to your realtor or whoever may have a hold of this title. You don't have to know. You no longer are going to have to go to the bank, to these places to go have these things printed out, so you can then sign and have the purchaser sign as well, and now he can take the title with him. You don't have to no longer do that. You no longer have to go to the bank to print, get the money given to you in an envelope so you can make that sale. Now everything's done digitally. The money is transferred from account to account. Okay? So, hey, man, that's pretty much what I wanted to hit on, because again, man, these devils are moving fast. They're moving quick every day. Every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year, things are being, done, purposely to bring about this fourth industrial revolution, which is the merging of man with machine. Because that's the ultimate form of security for this new digital world that's going to be brought, to you. It's the RFID microchip. That is the safety measure that's going to have to be taken for you to be more secure. Okay? So, just want to go ahead and close out there. Lord's will, this was edifying. I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles of the great millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth who are diligently pushing out this truth and its truth and sincerity. With that, I say shalom.